got 8:35. Let's get started. I'm Richard Smith with Calibre Home Inspections, inspecting homes and protecting dreams. I hope everybody is doing well today. We're here to answer any questions anybody has. We might wait just a minute or two, see if anybody shows up. We have Alexis here. Hey, Alexis.
Hi.
So, do we have any questions out there that came in this week that people are asking about and you kind of wish everybody knew something about something, scheduling or inspections
Yeah.
or
When you're,
ancillary inspections?
yes, during scheduling, make sure you have the address. I have so many people call who don't have the address available.
Wow.
I
What do you
know,
want
but
us to inspect? Where do
yeah,
you want us to be?
yeah, and they don't have the address. And I
We're
ask for a
good.
lot of
We're real
things.
good, but we can't read minds.
No, not at all. Or see behind walls.
Yeah, we can't predict the future.
Yeah.
We're leaving that up to someone else.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Um, Hmm. I wish more people knew, and I tell them this during scheduling, that if they have questions before the inspection to give us a call, because it's a great conversation to have with the inspector if I can't answer it. Which I always try to refer it back to an inspector, because I always say I'm not an inspector. This is what I know, but you can have a conversation with your home inspector before the inspection. And I feel like um it puts more people at ease. And why wouldn't
Right.
you want to have that conversation with the inspector if it's something that I can't answer about scheduling? If it's about, hey, can you look for this? I plan on being at the inspection. This is what I feel is going on. And I put those in the inspection notes
Right.
for y'all to see. But um, we really try to focus on customer care in
Right.
with the house. Customer care is top priority.
Right. Right. If we're if we're going from one inspection to another, sometimes we'll call the buyer and say, hey, we're on our way over. Do you have any questions for us to focus on? Something that we can focus on while we're there, double check it, make sure we make a note about it in the inspection. So it's a good idea to uh, talk to the inspector before he goes out. And
Mhm.
the best time to do that is probably an hour to a half an hour before the inspection.
Yeah.
It's probably out of the inspection, a previous inspection, and or he's in the car and he's driving to your inspection and he's already got his mind on his new construction, his new inspection project.
Hmm.
So that would be a good thing. And if you wait a little bit later and call us right when it starts, then we can make note of that and get a quick look at the house and give you a closer estimate on what time will be done.
Hmm.
So it just if you see the house is neglected, you can see that it's going to take a little bit longer.
Especially if it's
So
older, right? Y'all have had houses that were almost 100 years old, and they take a lot longer than a 10-year-old house, right?
right, I think 30 years old might take the longest because
Really?
they had well, given the same amount of neglect,
Mm.
the systems could be original. We're trying to see if they work. We're trying to make everything work. We're trying to see what's going on. Some things may have been repaired and covered up, and you have to try to guess or maybe pull something back and see if it just if things are going to go wrong, they're going to go wrong then,
Yeah.
and they might be covered up, and it's just a difficult age.
Isn't it weird
And
to think that the 1990s were 30 years ago?
I know,
Because like
I
in my
know.
mind, 30 years ago was 70. I had to like take a second and be like, oh wait,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
Otherwise, if it gets older than that, then usually the neighborhood's been through some kind of a massive rehab and or they just get really bad.
mhm.
And if they get really bad, in a way, it's kind of easier to inspect because you have a blanket statement. It's like all the floors are in disrepair instead of, you might have some worn or wavy wood in front of your refrigerator because of moisture or
Mhm.
whatever. And if it's just massive damage, there's two houses that I went into and I left. I just said, you don't need me here. You need a general
One of those
contractor.
is mine, I'm sure.
Everything. No, 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 that wasn't. No, some are just dangerous to go in and they just say, no, you
Really?
need a
Oh
big
wow.
contractor. You need someone that can take this down to the studs and start over. Yeah.
Mm,
It's not
wow.
often, but and in those cases, yeah, we'll cut the price in half and you don't have to pay for an inspection, full inspection if we're not going to do anything, but it is still a time slot.
Yeah.
So when you schedule and you cancel right before the inspection, unless we have someone we can move into that time slot, which is really rare, we lose that time slot, and that's what you're paying for. So that's why there might be an additional cost to um, canceling last minute. And if
Hmm.
you think about it, time is money, and that's what you're paying for. You're paying for our time, our knowledge, in being able to evaluate the house. And if we can't
Hmm.
do it during that time slot, then you've locked up that time slot and we've lost
Yeah.
an opportunity.
I spoke with an appraiser earlier. What day is it? Wednesday. Earlier in the week on Monday. And we were talking about him having him come out and he was like, well, we book in time slots. And I'm like, I understand we book in time slots as well. Because in every other industry, maybe not every other, but a lot of different industries, you pay for a service. And this one is a time slot because you don't know how long a house is going to take. You might get in there and it looks great and
Mm-hmm.
sounds great, but you get there and things might be different than you expected.
Right,
So,
right. We account for the time it's going to take to do the house. Like we'll see that as we schedule it, we'll see that it's a real old house on a crawl space. Well, sometimes you can't get into those old house crawl spaces.
mhm,
But on a normal old house in the 70s, 60s, 50s, you can get into them, but you got to gear up. You got to put your coveralls on, and that takes a few minutes. And then you got to get in there, and that takes a few minutes. And you got to get through the whole thing, and just getting around it takes a few
mhm,
minutes. And then because no one else wants to go in there, if something starts happening bad, things get neglected. So
mm,
it's not just regular square feet that you see in a crawl space. It's usually neglected square feet where you have to take the time and effort to take extra pictures or videos and take time writing the report. So
yeah,
it's a function of time. So crawl spaces take longer. Basements take a little longer than a slab house.
mhm,
But we take that into consideration when we tell you how long it's going to be. Usually the square feet and age will tell you a lot. Foundation usually adds, and then neglect. Sometimes houses are in pristine, and we win on those. The report gets shorter, it's easier, and you get to really, when the house is in good shape,
you just
and
go,
you're not,
wow, this is
yeah,
great.
it's a blessing. It's a blessing to see. And then you really get a chance to, all right, let's really find those trouble areas that are going to hide. Let's find the
Mm-hmm.
areas that are missing flashing that cause a problem down the road that people don't know about. And
Mm-hmm.
then, okay, so there's that flashing problem. Let's double check that with thermal imaging on the inside.
Yeah.
And, and you're still there about the same amount of time. New construction, well, you don't have that, but you do have the problem of things are built by people and things go wrong, and you have things that break during construction, and the builder knew about it at one time and it just fell off his list. And so I create a little punch list for the builder, and if it's finished, then I hardly have anything on the summary, which is nice. But there's always something, a flashing, a caulking, a gutters design, or something, ground drainage, or something for the owner to look out for. One last thing I want to talk about. Time is really kind of fleeting, but one last thing. There was something very interesting. I did a new construction house for a young fella, and it was a sizable house. And I thought, wow, this guy, what does he do for a living? We buy a nice size house that's new and in really good shape. And they did the flashing right, they did the gutters right, they did the window sills right, they did the hookup of all these systems. Said, wow, this is really nice. Every once in a while, you run into a diamond in the rough. It's just surprisingly in good condition. And I told him that, and he was happy. Then he asked me one question that made me realize why this guy makes so much money. This
Hmm.
guy asked a very good question. And I thought, man, that's probably the best question I've ever heard. And
Okay.
it just made me realize this guy knows who he's talking to. He knows I know houses and he knows what he does. And he asked me, he said, what about this house is going to be the first thing I need to worry about?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Hmm. And I said, you probably have the systems good for 10 years without a problem.
Hmm.
The
Now
roof
this
should
is up
be
with regular upkeep and maintenance. What's the
regular,
first thing?
normal. You got to paint your wood siding, every few years and all regular maintenance, regular stuff. Where is it going to fail first?
Hmm.
What's going to fail first? And I thought about it. And then I thought about, I built my house. What failed first on my house? And it's those exterior doors that don't have an awning or a porch around it. So the driving rain will
For
hit the
water.
sill. The driving rain will hit the sill of the door, hit the door and roll down the door.
Yeah.
And then it'll hang on the threshold.
Mm.
And that threshold will rot. Now, if you got a deck up against there and the flashing is done properly, you don't have to worry about that too much. But your door, if you open your door, you see right in the jambs, you'll see that's the first thing that'll go. And I
Mm.
looked at it and I said, yeah, it's going to be your back door. And I
That's
said,
not something you think about.
no, it
Oh,
isn't. I did when I built my house just because, and I put a 2 foot
yeah.
overhang. It wasn't big enough. So I'm going to put a little extra awning on top of that. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was interesting. That was the best question I ever had. And it is done to code. Everything was proper.
Hmm.
It's just a problem area. And it,
Interesting.
it was his first problem. So I asked him what he did for a living. And he was a techie. So he didn't know houses and he was asking me. And we do have maintenance Q&As that you can go to and find.
Yeah.
We have maintenance checklist on on the front page of our website. You can just go there and print that off. I might want to just print that off and laminate it and post it up by where all your exterior tools are, and you can just check that. It has it quarterly and yearly, and then another section for 5 years. 5 years is the painting and staining your deck and that type thing.
We should do a home binder workshop. Those are so fun.
The home finder?
No, a home binder. Like where you keep everything, like all your, like you get a notebook and then you get like these little clear plastic sleeves and you put
Yep.
your manuals and your warranties and your things, and then you just have it all right there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
It's a good
That
idea.
way it's not all over the place or sitting in a kitchen drawer or in a junk drawer somewhere. It's where you
That's
can
right.
find it. It's easy to grab.
I would always post I've got my list right here, and this is my maintenance checklist.
Mm.
That's what it looks like. Woo! Broken down into quarters, and it has on the bottom monthly, yearly, and every 5 years. Monthly, the only thing on it is a filter, your air filter. And that depends on a number of things. And I think we go through that in House 101 video that you get uh, after you do a home inspection with us. It
And it's good to go
explains,
back and rewatch it even a year later because
right,
something might have slipped your mind.
it's good to remind yourself about the cutoffs and how often you need to test things and clean things and uh, operate things. Oftentimes, if your water gets out of control, you need to know where your water cutoff is. There's usually always two. By code, there's two. You have one on the inside of the house, near right where the water comes into the house, and then you have another one at the street. You
Mm,
can cut the water off at either location. The one inside the house is for the homeowner. The one outside is for the water company, and they can lock it off, but you can still turn it off there. You need to operate those valves once a year. Just turn it, just make sure it turns. If you don't, it gets old, might condensate on the outside, it might drip on the outside, and then it starts rusting.
mm,
And then it seizes up where you can't cut it off. And if you need to cut it off in an emergency, you want to be able to cut the water off, or you want to be able to cut the water off to change a fixture.
yeah.
You need to change another cutoff. You can cut it off to change the fixture, but if you want to change this cutoff, you got to turn it off before that,
Yeah.
and then so you can play and maintain that valve without pressure on it.
Hmm.
So
I wonder how many
that's
people
it.
know where their cutoffs are in their house. Like if they
Every
have gas, do you know where the gas cutoff
you
is?
know you got to know where the gas cut off, the water, and power. Power is
Yeah.
usually at the meter outside or inside at the main breaker panel.
Mm.
So I think we're gonna title this the best question ever asked.
That's a good one. Yeah. That's great.
So thanks for joining us again. If you're watching these on video, Richard Smith, Calibre Home Inspections, inspecting homes and protecting dreams. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.